What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. Super big fanboy day today. This is a big deal. This is the 50th episode. I did not think it would get this far. But we got my favorite songwriter, Oliver Wood. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, man. I was super pumped when this all worked out because it's been like months in the works from when I had John on. I was, do you think Oliver would do this at some point? He's like, I don't know, maybe. But I'm so glad you're doing it, man. I have so many questions. We got to fit it all in.
All right, let's get rocking. Let's get going. We can do it.
So the first thing, and I mentioned this briefly, but first time I saw you guys, it was just you and Chris at the Berkeley Performance Center opening for Hornsby.
Yeah.
And I was a songwriting major at Berkeley. And the first lyric I heard you sing that like totally hooked me to your band and to you was from Loaded. The tip of my tongue is a barrel of a gun and it's loaded. And I was like, whoa. And I swear to God, man, next day I went to class, to my lyric writing class, and I was like, do you know about the Wood Brothers? Like, did a whole gospel on you guys. Where did that lyric come from? Like, I want to get into your head about how you write your words.
Well, it really varies because and that song's been around for a while, so I'm trying to remember even what the inspiration for that song was. Um, uh, but I don't know. I think certain lyrics, like sometimes things like that are like quirky images, which are metaphors or similes or whatever. Sometimes those are kind of the first thing that I'll write, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of writers. Like, where like just some quirky, I don't know. Sometimes for me, it's the first line of a song. Like sometimes that's what gets me. Like, oh, that would be a cool first line of a song. Like. What did I just hear? There's a great first. What's the fantastic first line to a song? Which is, oh, I heard that Springsteen song on Nebraska. They blew up the Chicken Man in Philly last night. You know that song that. It's incredible. Just hear, I'm like, what is he talking about? I love this song just from the first, you know, from the first line. So sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be the first line, but sometimes I've had things come to me like that where it's just that becomes the anchor, and even if it's not the hook of the song, maybe it's the first line in the song. But like for me, I write songs kind of in all the ways. Like sometimes I've got a bunch of words with not really any music other than maybe a rhythm or a phrasing. And other times I have music without lyrics, and sometimes I work on them at the same time. So you know, I think a lot of songwriters have a one way that they do more than others, but I think a lot of people just try anything that works. So I have like a notebook full of lyrics, and I have tons of voice memos on my phone full of little riffs and chord progressions, and sometimes I just listen to some music and some words come, or sometimes I sing along some lyrics and some music comes, and sometimes um, I try to marry things, just what I wonder if this word would work with this voice memo or whatever, if these words or whatever. So sort of anything goes, kind of.
Do you work like particularly well in a specific scenario? Like I find that when I'm driving, stuff
Yeah.
hits me a lot. And if I'm in the shower for some reason, like I wrote a whole song
Yeah.
in Steam, lyrics in
Yeah.
Steam one time when I was in the shower. Do you have anything like that?
Well, I'm a super nerd about songwriting and creativity right now. Like I'm geeking out on. I read a lot of. Uh, I don't know. I just read a lot of biographies. I love There's a book called Songwriters on Songwriting. You probably know that book by last name Zalo, right? It's just a huge compilation of interviews. So I love hearing what people do, and I think what you said, driving, sometimes taking a walk. Um, I'm really into to what. Why does that work? Like, how come when you're driving, idea sometimes you just get stuck, right? Or that's just a
Mhm.
generalization, but it's generally true for me. And I've learned that, you have a side of your brain that's completely creative and childlike, and the inspiration side, right? And then you have
Mhm.
the other side of your brain, or part of your brain, that is more logical and controlling and judgmental and but they're both necessary, right? You need the logical part to organize ideas.
Mhm.
But it's also the very thing that messes you up, because it judges it. It says, "No, that sucks," or it says, "I know what this is about," and it takes over, right? And it gets in the way of that flow of inspiration. So I'm really into, like, well, how do you tap that inspiration side and quiet down the logical side?
Mhm.
And do you have to get high or drink or what? And those things do some stuff, but that you can't rely on that, obviously. But the whole thing about a real common denominator with a lot of writers that I've read about is the whole thing about walking or driving, is that you're occupying the logical part of your brain has to partly focus on whatever menial thing that is. Driving, walking, those things take some. Yeah, and if you read about Paul Simon, he would always throw a baseball into a glove, or just throw it against the wall and catch it. But something like that doesn't take all of your brain, but it just distracts a piece of your logical brain. Um, and I think that's the ticket. So, like, if you're stuck, go on a walk or go on a drive or take a shower, like you were saying. And I'm really into that lately. Like, that's something that gets me out of a rut, or gets me get some problem solving going.
Yeah. Man, that's I never thought about that. That's brilliant. Like,
It's
I gotta
it's
find that.
pretty
I've
great.
never read that. I've never read that book. I gotta find that. That's amazing. So did you for lyrics, like, is there one song that you took a long time to work on because of
Uh,
that?
there's a lot of them. Only because I don't know why that is, but, like, yeah, there's some songs where, well, like on the latest Wood Brothers album, there's a song called "Satisfied." It's the album closer,
Love that
and
one.
and that was years in the making, because actually the music already existed from two albums before that. Um, we just had leftover music, and we had some sort of throwaway lyrics at the time, and I'd been working on this "Satisfied" tune for a while, but anyway, that song didn't come together until a couple of years later. So yeah, I've had certain songs that it wasn't always just the lyrics; it was just that magical combo of lyrics and music, and you know letting the song completely reveal itself. I hate to say, like, muscling through it, because again, that's the other thing that I get a lot of from. I've been reading Jeff Tweedy's books lately. He has a couple of great books out, and he's real. He can articulate it really well too. And Paul Simon's good at it too. It's just the idea of, like, songs are not to be let. You got to follow the song and let it reveal itself. As opposed to
Mhm.
leading it and thinking what it's about and how it's going to go, is usually what quells the inspiration. And so you really need to follow it. And I find there's some songs it just takes a long time, and you just have to wait, and or just keep showing up and keep trying it. And so yeah, plenty of songs took a long time.
Well, that's comforting to know.
Yeah,
Um, so we talked a little bit before we went on live, and I was telling you, like, I love gospel music. I love blues music. Gospel seems to run pretty thick in your veins and your blood. So, like, where did that start? Was that it from a very, very young age that you were drawn to that? Because I find it to be one of the most healing things to listen to. I could
yeah,
listen to, like, B3 gospel music all day, or piano,
yeah,
like gospel all day. So where did
sure.
that come from?
Well, I don't know exactly. I think I've always just loved pretty much all American roots music. So blues, gospel, jazz, early jazz, even bebop, like, um, and I don't know. It's weird. This has come up a lot lately, and I feel like, I mean, I didn't grow up in church or religious at all, but I love American gospel music. Um, whether it's African American Baptist Southern churches or it's Appalachian music. I love it all, and I've been trying to figure that out too. Like, what is it about it? And I I've concluded the only thing I can think of is, that music in its purest form is the most unpretentious. Um, well, it's folk music because its purpose is not to entertain people and make money. It's not a business thing ultimately. The good stuff, right? It comes from the heart, and it's like folk music or any kind of folk art. It's not designed to be performed and for people to clap and be impressed. It's designed for people to feel good. Like
Yeah.
those who are singing it makes them feel good. Those who are listening and singing along, it's all about connecting with people and connecting with yourself if you're in that spiritual frame of mind. And so I think that's why I like it the most. Is because it really is true folk music. It's for folks. It's not supposed to be on the radio. I mean, it can be obviously, and there's a whole commercial side of gospel music. But the stuff that really feels great is somebody singing is because they feel it, and I think that's what it is.
Dude, I mean, I'm right there with you because I mean, I'm not a religious man, but like that music speaks to me. And
Yeah,
there's this thing about it too, like so on your new record, on your solo record, so listening to a song like Roots,
yeah,
it's like the gospel harmony blueprint, man.
yeah,
And even if there's a diminished chord that's coming in that I kind of expect,
yeah,
it doesn't bother me, man. I love it.
yeah.
I
It's
want to
comforting.
hear that every time. I want to hear it. You
Sure.
know what I
Well, it's
mean?
kind of like old blues music is a lot like that. It's like the same 12 bar progression over and over, and you expect it and you know exactly where it's going to go. It's predictable, but there's a certain I think that's the other thing is that sort of simplicity in that language um that also allows for you just to really hear uh I don't know, it's just the most soulful, like it's cuts away all the fancy stuff, and
Hmm.
something about that. But like you listen to even pop music that's been done by Ray Charles or Aretha Franklin or um, somebody like that, and uh, you or CeeLo Green for a modern reference, Sam Cooke, even their pop music has elements of that in it because that's how they came up. They grew up, with that in their music, and that spirit kind of is still there even when they're getting into the pop world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that music for me, and that's what I told you drew me to you guys, and like the predictable beauty of that style of music, I think is what it's comforting, like you said, because it's always there. It's that pillow
Yeah,
at the end of the night that you can lay your head on, man.
yeah.
Um, and I always say this about you guys, just like, and I mean this in the biggest compliment. You guys get the most out of a 1/4 progression of any band I've ever heard, and then never, but you guys do it so smart too,
Yeah,
like like whether it be a modulation or a little
yeah,
quirky riff somewhere in there, it doesn't even matter. But like you come up with the most impressive melodies, like, and even if it's just over a 1/4 progression to keep it real and to keep it fresh and interesting.
yeah.
That's why I'm so drawn to like your music. I think that's like, and I mean
Cool.
that as a compliment. So
Nice. Well, we've
yeah.
been really noticing in the last couple of years how we did for our last record we did a lot of improvising and which oftentimes was just one or two chords, sometimes one chord the whole time, um, and or like a 1/4 thing, um, and realizing that God, there's so much more to songs than chord progressions,
Mhm.
and I will say this too in terms of creativity, uh, both on my new record and on the latest Wood Brothers record, there are a few songs that come completely from improvisations that were recorded in a nice studio, in our studio, but without the intention of making a song. Just like, ooh, let's jam and listen to each other and react um, and just have fun. That childlike kind of playful kind of music where, if you were playing a song, well, you'd be using your logical mind. You'd be trying to get the parts right, and you'd be thinking about the parts. So, um, that's when you play the most interesting, in my opinion. That's when I play my most interesting stuff, is when I'm just in that playful, um, inspirational side of the brain mode, and I can just react to things, and there's no consequence. There's no negative consequence to taking chances, or you're most in the moment when you're just improvising and reacting. And so, in the same way that that's a frame of mind I'd like to be in when I'm writing a song, while recording too. And so anyway, some of the songs on the new record are done that way. I had guys come in the studio who I loved playing with, and I had the studio, everything mic'd up and sounding good, but I'm like calling out tunes. We're just not in a groove. There's a song called "Kindness" on my new record, and we were just jamming in the studio, all in one room, and I just was like, we're in the key of C, and just started playing, and about 2 minutes later, E flat, and just for 20 minutes later, we have multiple keys. We just kind of went places, and then later I used that to put a song together, the actual recording, and so I think it would have been so much different had we learned the song and performed it. You know what I mean? We would have had these set parts, and so I like working like that when possible.
Yeah, the spontaneity. Like Jana was talking about that, how you guys hung up the last treatments in the wall in the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Alabaster happened, like out of nowhere. That's an amazing story. Tell me who played on this new record, because I don't have any. I heard the record and it's amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
Who all played on it?
Well, Jono played on several tracks and produced several tracks. My buddy Ted Pecchio played bass on the whole album. My friend Brooke Sutton, who engineered the whole album and co-produced much of the album, played tuba on a track. And let's see, I've got Susan Tedeschi sang a background vocal. John Medeski played an organ track. Some of the rhythm section guys, there's a guy, there's a really cool band that's sadly no longer together called the Rigs, the Rondo Rigs, and some great musicians. Aaron Lip plays banjo and guitar, and Rick Robertson plays guitar and keys, and Nicholas Falk plays some percussion, including the chicken coop. I don't know if Jono mentioned the chicken coop, but we have a
No, what's that?
It's a chicken coop. It's an actual chicken coop. I can show it to you if you want.
Please.
But it is an influential piece of equipment for me, because when I lived in Atlanta, I played with a guy named Donnie McCormick, who used to be a drummer. I know I'm in the dark right now. I'll fix that in a minute. But he used to be a drummer, and when he got older, he didn't want to lug his drums around anymore, so he started playing this chicken coop.
I cannot wait to see this.
I don't know how well you can see it here, but it's in between this tuba and this bass. There's a chicken coop. It looks almost like a lobster trap or something.
Yeah.
But it's basically a little cage, and it's got plywood on one side, but otherwise it's more like a cage. So you can put it up on its side and beat on it, and it's quirky. But anyway, one of my favorite things that happened on this record is Nick played the chicken coop. Jono played it too. Actually, I gave that to Jono for his birthday one year.
Oh, that's awesome. Now let me ask you a question, because
Yep.
Jono and I were talking about the Passionate Blues record with JB Lenore, right?
Mm.
Is that what was played on that record?
No, that's not what played on that record. That's actually a drummer, Fred Belo, I think, who played with Muddy Waters and a lot of the Chess Records guys. But it's got that vibe. It's got that real junky, porchy kind of clickety clackety kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, man. So did John Medeski play on? Was that Fine Line? Was he playing organ on that? I knew it. I was like, that sounds exactly like Medeski. That's like that was one of my favorite organ tones I've heard this whole year.
Yeah.
Easily. And it was like that throaty thing that John gets out of an organ, Oh, man, it's so good. Well, let's talk about the record, because I'm going to go through. I've listened to it a lot over the past 2 weeks. So Kindness, obviously the lead track. What I found interesting, what you were saying, is all the modulations that happen throughout.
Yeah.
But not only that, but like there's a couple little quick two beat pauses, like over the bar line kind of thing. Stuff that you do with your music also that keeps you on your toes. That track is, I mean, when you were coming up with the list of the tunes, like in putting them in order and everything, is that like a laborious thing, or is that like you already have an idea when you see all of them in front of you?
In terms of sequencing them, or
yeah,
that's a labor. I don't enjoy sequencing. Like in the Wood Brothers, Chris is the master set list maker, for live shows. So sequencing songs is tricky for me. But I don't know. I think you put them all in front of you, and these days I don't feel like, I think it's me personally. I feel like, well, these days, how many people are going to get past 3 songs on an album? And that's pretty cynical of me, but when I think of even myself now, when a new album comes out, I check it out, but I think, like most people, I don't listen like I used to. When I was a kid, and it was 1977, and I had all this vinyl, and I would sit there and look at it and listen to every song, and the sequence, it was like a big piece of art. Whereas now, I almost feel like it's a fraction of the people that are going to treat albums like albums. So so what I'm getting at is, I tend to think, well, I really want people to get to this song, so I'm going to put it right here.
yeah.
Part of it, but at the same time, sometimes like on Wood Brothers albums, I can't tell you how many times we put my favorite song on the last track, saying, "Oh, that's a great what a great way to finish the album, like with my favorite thing." And then nobody's heard of it. Nobody ever requested or has ever heard it. So it's a bit frustrating in that regard. But even still, it is a challenge to make the shape of the sequence feel good, and I don't feel like I'm great at it, but
this one feels great, Oliver. That's why I was asking. I mean, I've listened to it in multiple places: in my car, driving around, in my driveway, cutting up a tree and cutting up firewood, like cooking dinner, like in a bunch of different iterations. And it definitely takes you on a ride. And like, I think so. As far as the Wood Brothers, I mean, I told Jono this too. Like, Can't Look Away is probably one of my favorite tunes.
Mine too. And recording.
Oh, it sounds so good. And like his slinky groove in the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Every time you guys play it, when I hear that groove come in, I'm like, like, because I know it's coming, because you can feel it. Like, that tune is so great. But anyway, the new album has such a great ride. Then so Roots, I feel like that's that gospel thing. But like when I heard that, like, Get the Blues, like New Orleans-y type of a feeling, and I heard that brass stuff come in, that got me, man. That song, that's probably my favorite track on the record. I feel
really
like,
nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's because there's something about this record that has a little bit more edge, maybe, than a Wood Brothers record in a way. Because there's like tunes that I feel like are dystopian blues, like, Battle Is Over type of thing. And then there's like the New Orleans-y kind of funk, and then you hear Susan come in, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Like, could this have gotten any more perfect? Because anytime you guys sing together, it's glorious. But man, yeah, it's such a good ride, man. It's really fun to listen to. Like, you should be really proud of it, man. It's a great record.
I appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, man. And then I feel like you have, I love hearing you play slide because I play too, and but you have this fingerprint, and it's like it's like I can hear it's you, just like I can hear it's Derek within a bar, like within 2 beats.
Mhm.
I know it's you, or I know it's somebody like that.
Yep.
And it's just and the way you record stuff. I mean, the gear that was used on this, I'm sure. I mean, because when you're on stage, you just have like a little champ, right? Like, what are you playing through on stage?
On stage, I have it's a little K.
Okay.
I can show it to you. I usually use a little K amplifier, which is 4 watts, but I use it in conjunction with another amp, like a Princeton or a Blues Junior. But this is the K, and it's called a. Can you see that?
Yeah,
The K503,
man.
and so it's just a little guy, and it fits in a overhead compartment on an
Yeah.
airplane. Um, but I use that, and but have I split my signal to go to that, and like oftentimes it's a Blues Junior, just because that's the easiest thing to get on a festival when I do fly dates and stuff like that. So I've learned to just use that really cool amp with sort of uh, a run of the mill Fender, and
Yeah.
and then split the signal, so you hear a little bit of both. So you got that real lo-fi, crunchy little pawn shop sound blended with more of a Fender sound with a little more headroom. So that's what I do live. But that's the cool thing about the studios. I can do a little everything. So I did use the Champ a lot in the studio, and a lot of acoustic things.
That's cool, man. Was there a harmonic tremolo in some amp for like Battle or sort of Soul of This Town? Was there a harmonic tremolo or some sort of there was like a chewy, juicy tremolo on that track. And I was like, what is that?
Yeah, I was using Jono's got this really cool amp called a Kent, which is a lot like the K I just showed you. It just has tremolo, and
Okay.
it's really messed up. It has this one really noisy but cool vibey sound, and yeah, a super strong tremolo with one knob on the tremolo.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was gnarly, man. It's like a super chewy type of a sound. I loved it, man. Well, I mean, man, as far as like everybody's got to check out the record because it's damn good. And I didn't expect. I always say this, but like, I feel like you could do no wrong in my book, man. I'll buy every record you guys put out. And it's funny. I told Jono, my truck. I have 2 stickers on my truck. I have a Wood Brothers sticker and a Pearl Jam sticker. Like,
nice.
those are my 2 favorite bands, kind of things. It's funny, man. But I grew up. I'm 41. I grew up on grunge rock, so
Yeah,
that's how I cut my teeth playing guitar, man.
nice.
All right, Oliver, you want to do this lightning round get down so we
Let's
can
do the lightning round get down. I'm a little nervous.
skedaddle?
Yeah, let's do
Ah,
it.
you'll be fine, man. So I'm gonna put on a metronome at a cruising altitude of 105 BPM. We're not gonna pass out any peanuts though. All right, so don't freak out about that. No peanut allergies here. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you some. It's 10 questions. You can explain your answers if you'd like. You don't
Okay.
have to. You can just burn right through them.
Okay.
First question is always the same.
Okay.
Lennon or McCartney?
Oh, that, I really do. It's not fair. Um, it's a really tough one. Uh, do I have to? Uh,
I
today,
heard the best answer from somebody.
today it's different on different days. Today it's McCartney. I got the first thing that came to my head was just like funny when we were talking about that song "Get the Blues." It has a section that I thought I modeled after "Live and Let Die," where it just goes 1 4, live and
Yeah.
let. So today it's McCartney, but that can change from day to day.
Man, I had somebody give the best Lennon answer. They were like, Lennon, because it gave us Donny Hathaway's version of Jealous Guy. I was like, you win today, my friend.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Tennessee soul food or Georgia soul food?
I'm gonna have to go with Georgia. Yeah, I'm gonna go with just Georgia barbecue. I'm married to a Georgia girl. Yeah.
All right.
My wife
Dar-
is from Georgia, and she cooks. She's great cooking. I don't know. I'll take that.
Okay. All right. Darts or foosball?
Foosball. Me.
Oh, okay. All right. For a slide, you prefer brass or glass?
I think I like glass a little bit better, but lately I've dropped so many of those and shattered them in parking lots and stuff that I keep a metal slide around. And check this out. This is kind of interesting. My favorite new thing, wooden slide.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and you know why? Because it doesn't sustain. You know, everybody wants sustain, but what if you just make it so it dies out? So you still have that non-tempered kind of slidey around, but it's just die. And
Yeah.
actually, what I used on my album for the song "Unbearable Hearts." So I'm gonna check.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And were you playing your national on that too?
No, that was just a cheap Yamaha acoustic guitar, 70s Yamaha.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Strings. Do you prefer heavier gauge strings or light strings?
Generally heavier. Yep.
Okay. Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man?
Pac-Man.
Okay. All right. Same song name, different artists. Money, Pink Floyd, or the Beatles?
I think Pink Floyd in this case.
Okay. Indiana Jones or Han Solo?
Say Han Solo.
All right. You're in a restaurant. You want guacamole or no guacamole?
Yes, guacamole.
My man. All right. Last one, Oliver.
Okay.
If you could take one album and erase it from your memory, you've never heard it before, just so you could go back and experience it for the first time again, what album would that be?
Ooh, man. That's a tough call.
Doesn't have to be your favorite album of all time. Just could be one you'd like to experience again.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be cool to just having grown up with the Beatles, like something like Abbey Road or the White Album, or anything, Revolver, like just to hear it now, not having been exposed, and then somebody saying, "Yeah, this is from 1968 or 69." What?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice. All right, man. You made it through unscathed. You know what's funny is Gabe Dixon was on here and we were talking and I asked him that and he said Dark Side of the Moon. I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. I was expecting you to go some Elton album, you know.
Right.
He did not. Well, Oliver, dude, thank you so much, man. You don't know how much this means to me to have you as my 50th. So
I'm honored, man. Thanks for including me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You can hang out for a sec. You guys take care of yourself. Take care of each other. See you next time.